about that any case, but that's a longer term historical issue that I won't go into now.
Sorry,
but I might touch on
it. Not insulting, offensive to the Americans.
What would you like to say for yourself?
Are you American?
Nothing. No, not into the mic. No, don't grab the mic. Just speak. Speak or forever hold your peace. Huh? Holding your peace? Is it? No, you'll never hold your peace. No. Okay, speak or hold your peace for a little while. Well, for those of you who are new here, this is the Marxist meeting at Speaker's Corner. This is a Marxist meeting at Speaker's Corner, a little bit different from a lot of the religion around the area here. I discuss current affairs and historical questions. Obviously, there are a few stories in the news at the moment which I will touch on during the course of the meeting if people want me to. And I'll try and explain how I see the balance of power in the world and how I see change coming about. And that's the sort of framework within which I've been working during the course of this meeting today. I do encourage people to ask questions and make contributions at any stage during the meeting, as long as it doesn't veer off into insanity or too wildly off the themes. Then I try to engage, and if I don't know the answers, I'll just lie or tell you.
Airliner that's been brought down. How do you see that in the wider world view?
I mean, a lot of newspapers this week were saying, a lot of media outlets this week were saying that the downing of the Malaysian airline jet over eastern Ukraine is a game changer or a fundamental transformation. I think it is most likely that the so-called rebels, in other words, the nationalist forces inside eastern Ukraine, shot it down. I think that's most likely. There are other possibilities. I think that's the most likely explanation. The newspapers in Britain, for example, were saying this week, "My son killed by Putin," and things like this. This is just idiocy. The typical sort of stupidity that they want people to suck into their brain and spew out again to the general public. There is a battle going on in Ukraine in which Western powers, well, specifically Europe, the United States and Russia, are engaged in a proxy conflict inside that country. As many proxy conflicts have developed throughout history, this is a proxy conflict which I believe is unwinnable by the West. It's unwinnable by the West. That's the reason why they make a lot of bluster about it, because they have to. It's winnable by the Russians, and the Russians will win it. The Russians will win it because they control the fundamental supplies to the Ukraine of oil and gas. And at the bottom of all societies is the requirement to have energy.
It's Russia who supplies the oil and gas.
Russia supplies
to Ukraine.
The oil and gas to Ukraine. They've already cut off supplies.
Yeah, they've told them
by
to pay up the debt.
By December, Ukraine will be blacked out. Now, either Poroshenko, the new president of Ukraine, makes a deal with the Russians, or the Ukraine will collapse. And if the Ukraine collapses, Poroshenko will be overthrown. And therefore, a deal will be made between now and the next couple of months. That's my prediction, between Poroshenko and Putin. The question is, will it be on terms that are favourable to Germany in alliance with Russia, or will they be on terms favourable to the United States in alliance with sections of the Ukrainian elite?
Mr. Speaker.
And I think there is a direct conflict between the United States and Germany, which has been shown by a recent spying crisis in Germany. Not much reported in the West over here, but basically the Americans were caught spying on the Germans, quite apart from spying on Merkel's personal phones and millions of people in Germany, in German society. An American was recently caught. I mean, arrested, better said, rather than caught. I mean, they've known about these things for
He was
ages.
expelled.
And they expelled the leading CIA operative, I believe it was leading CIA operative inside Germany, which is fundamentally about a rebalancing of world power relations. And this is why we're also seeing conflicts break out in other regions of the world. Take some of my tea. In other regions of the world. There you go. In other regions of the world.
Germany, US, Russia, Ukraine. Where does Israel fit into all this? What is? I've got it. Where does Israel fit into all this?
Here we have.
Change the subject, Mr. Speaker.
Change what subject?
Israel.
Change it. You raised the subject. I haven't even had a chance to respond yet. Israel basically fits in as an ally of the West historically. In the Middle East, the most important ally of the United States of America.
It means since 1948.
Yes.
1967.
48, effectively. And
by breaking three of Moses' commands, thou shalt not covet, thou
I
shalt
don't
not steal,
really care
thou
about
shalt not
Moses.
kill. You don't care who gets killed.
I don't care about Moses.
You don't care about Palestinian children.
Is that really what
Marxist
did
Leninist.
I really say anything of the sort?
Look at what's happening, mate.
So,
Shit ideology.
And anti-Semitism is on the rise in Germany. Women are joining the Nazi party.
what?
Anti-Semitism is on the rise in Germany. Women are joining the Nazi party.
I mean,
Marie Le Pen, the right wing, she made a reference to the oven indirectly to the Holocaust. Some Jews are leaving Europe and going to Israel for safety. This is in the Times newspaper.
Well, it's hardly as
I'm not
safe.
Jewish myself,
Look,
but
you've got 11,000 security guards guarding cafes, bars, restaurants with weapons in the hand. It's hardly a safe environment, is it? Right? So, where's the safety? That's nonsense. There is. Well, it is interconnected together. I'm quite happy to discuss. The gentleman here wanted me to say what he wanted to say. That's the problem. He didn't want me to answer saying what I thought. He wanted me to say what he thought, which is difficult for me because I can't read his mind. Now, in relation to Israel, you've basically got the same barbaric policy that they've carried out for decades. Slaughter Palestinians who they contain in a sort of concentration camp, an open concentration camp, in the name of security. I think it's I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, I think it's 2 Israelis were killed, and I think it was 300 Palestinians killed, of whom I believe it's 100 are children. So here we have the balance of forces of this so-called security power. Israel is not interested in security. Israel is interested in a security industry that is one of the leading figures in the world. That's an important component of its economy. What is Israel? Israel is a country owned by 18 families. 18 families own that country. They own 60% of the shares in the economy. Just 18 families. That is the reality of what Israel is. And their industrial and economic interests are interconnected with that particular balance of power, which has been established over decades in Israel. Sorry?
Don't you believe they're democratic?
What do you mean democratic?
About
Well,
the right of the individual.
How many Palestinians have there?
well, the reality is the democracy of the.
So how many, Israel controls what do they, have to
Well,
say?
do they control it? They don't control it. You know, I mean, you say Hamas control Gaza. Hamas was supposed to have shot 30, I think it was 30 missiles at settlers communities, of which 20 missed and 10 were shot down. 10 were shot down. 10 were shot down. 10 were shot down by
Iron Dome.
by the Israeli Defense Forces. So there was no real. I just took it this morning. I've got the documents here, which I printed out this morning. If you want to check them later on, you can do so.
800. Yeah, I have BBC said
So how many? The question is, what is the balance of military forces between Hamas and Gaza and the Israeli military. It is absolutely and overwhelmingly in favour of the Israeli military. Israel is a militarised state, which in the name of democracy, backed by this so-called security threat, fundamentally plunders and robs and kills the Palestinian people, depriving them of fundamental national rights that are supposed to be the principles on which Israel itself is founded. You ask, is it a democracy? You can have a democracy which is dictatorial. It's the very nature of the term. Democracy means majority rule. If you have a majority rule, the majority can also repress a minority. If a majority, for example, in Britain votes to kill 49% of the population, that is a democracy as well, isn't it? Adolf Hitler also was elected by parliamentary democracy on the one side. He never actually got a majority, but he had a parliamentary. Until such time as he already had power, then he managed to galvanise himself a majority. The reality is cobbling together majorities in the Israeli parliament involves capitulating to the interests of the most reactionary Zionists who keep occupying territory. Most of them don't even come from Israel, they come from Russia or elsewhere, imported in 7% a year growth of the population, seized territory from the